How about that heat? You guys like the temperature out there? It's fantastic. My wife and I were gonna go play golf today, and I was kind of concerned about the heat, and then she's like, what are you doing? And I go, well, I always take 2 pairs of pants when I go play golf. And she's like, why are you taking 2 pairs of pants? And I said, well, you know, in the unlikely event that I get a hole-in-one. But, okay, that was a joke. But we don't play golf. But too much time shooting. And I do honestly believe that a golf course is an incredible waste of a beautiful shooting range. So Torrey Pines would be so nice. Just set up some berms, nice view. So a lot of folks are interested in getting their concealed carry permit. Anybody in the application process right now? So you've already submitted. Everybody else, start now. There's like 7,000 applications in queue right now. That means you're in line behind 7,000 people. But there is a caveat to that. Just talking with the Sheriff's Department recently this week, there's a couple processes you can do to expedite your application. And it really is totally on you to just go in and try to log in to Peridium. Sorry, I say Peridium because I'm so used to it. CCW Pro is the new software. Peridium is the old software they're not using anymore. You go to CCW Pro, you log in, and you say, reschedule my appointment. And then you look for sooner dates than whatever date you already have scheduled. If you do that diligently, you can probably get a sooner date for your appointment. The problem is they're just so backlogged. They don't have the staffing levels. They don't have the ability to process applications as quickly as they're coming in. It's almost like if you're trying to fill a bottle from a fire hose. It's just not going to work. So that's the problem they're in, is just the overwhelming amount of applications. Then we've also got some things going on the federal level where they want to make California issue permits to non-residents of California, which if that, they're preparing for that. They don't know how to do it yet, or how they're figuring it out. Because like right now, if you are a military person here stationed in San Diego, you now have to get a California ID card, or DOJ won't allow your CCW to go through. So in the past, you just had to have orders showing that you're stationed in San Diego. Now you have to actually have a California ID in order to do that. So people from out of state would have to somehow get a California ID, or they got to work out all the details on that. But what that could do, if you think about how much that could blow up the overwhelming amount of applications coming in to California, it'd be great if we'll send them all to LA, and they won't apply in San Diego, but they could apply in San Diego, especially if they have family here and they're coming here. That's where they're going to apply. And now we've got thousands more applications coming in. So bless you. The nice thing is with the Sheriff's new website and the way it's set up here, they have a video that you can watch on the website. I'm not going to show it to you right now. I'm just going to tell you, go watch the video, because it walks you through the process step by step, kind of what we're going to talk about today. But it just really helps kind of point out some of the things that make it easier to navigate. Their IT department is really robust. I mean, they have a $1.4 billion budget for the Sheriff's Department. San Diego County is one of the largest agencies in California. So they have an IT department that was able to develop their own software that they could basically fine tune and say, we can make any adjustments on it. We can fix things that need to be repaired. We can do it faster than going back and forth through a private vendor, which is what Peridium was. So first step, start your application now, get that application in. It doesn't matter if you don't have any training or you don't have a gun, you can still start your application. And because there's going to be this lag time of right now, appointments are 12 to 15 months out. So you've got plenty of time to buy a gun, get some training, do all the things everybody else is recommending, learn how to use that gun safely, learn about safe storage, safe handling, how to shoot the gun, defensive practices, do some defensive training. You can do all that even before you get your permit. So there's a lot to it. It's not just take a class. If you think back to when you got your driver's license, some of us that are older had driver's ed in school. It was like a class that you took. We had simulators. It's a video game. And then you drove on the freeway in a car with an instructor that had 2 steering wheels. It's kind of weird. Or had brake pedals and everything on the other side. So they could control the vehicle. Did that 1 week-long class, or however long that class was, did that teach you to be a good driver, or did that teach you the basics of how to drive a car?
Basics.
Yeah, just basics how to drive a car. So a safety class or a firearms class is going to teach you what you need to know to handle a gun safely, to know the safety rules, know the laws of how to when to engage, when not to engage a bad guy in a self-defense situation. It's hopefully going to teach you a lot about awareness, de-escalation, avoidance, being a better self-defender by not engaging in social violence and choosing to make the right decisions under stress. Some of what the gentleman talked about earlier about knowing your emotional fitness will help you not overreact to something that's kind of somebody asking you for spare change in an angry or aggressive manner does not justify drawing your gun. It probably doesn't even justify drawing pepper spray. So you have to be able to determine what level of force is necessary for the level of danger being presented. That takes experience and multiple training evolutions to learn how to do that. So we encourage people, obviously a 1 or 2 day class is not going to teach you how to shoot a gun proficiently. It's going to teach you maybe the standards of what you need to know. It's on you to learn what you need to know. And that's why I like the fact that there is kind of a lag time between applying for your permit and getting the permit. Problem is I have a lot of folks come to class and they're like, oh, a week before the class, I haven't bought a gun yet. Like, well, you kind of need a gun. Well, can I use your gun? No, you gotta have your own gun. Or they're like, well, I don't have a holster. Well, where are you gonna put your gun? I don't know, I hadn't thought about it. You've had a year to think about it. You've had a year, basically, to think about this kind of stuff. So taking the time to kind of process some of that is great to do that ahead of time. Getting back to the sheriff's website, get that application in. If you already have your application in Peridium, you need to link it to CCW Pro, and that's done by creating an account with CCW Pro and then sending the sheriff an email saying, hey, I've created an account with CCW Pro. I need you to link it with my Peridium account, and then they'll manually link it. Right now, it has to be manually linked, meaning they have to look at it and look at this and do some verification, and then they link it. What they're working on right now with the IT department is automatically linking it so that basically they can send out emails or contact everybody and say, if you have your application is in Peridium, go ahead and do the CCW Pro, and then we'll link it. But they're not there yet to link all of them. So the only people they're asking to do that right now, and like right now, if you apply today, you'll go to CCW Pro. There's no more Peridium. You can't use it anymore. It's shut down. But if you're doing a renewal, anybody have a permit and might be renewing their permit? Of course not. Why would you be here? Jeez. So that was a tip they gave me earlier, but I'll have to tell those guys. So the next step is verifying your account, and that's just basically matching up your account. If you have the Peridium account, those of you that have already submitted, you'll link it to your CCW Pro account. If anyone that hasn't started the application process yet, CCW Pro. That's the only place to go. You go to the sheriff's website. It's sdsheriff.gov, and then click on the CCW application or CCW permit, little button. And then this is interesting because I know a lot of people called me on this one, which was how do I do this? How do I click on that little drop down? This is not my computer.
Click on the
I'm hitting
click down on the mouse pad with your finger, put pressure on it.
oh, there it is. Old guys in computers. Is this like a Mac or something?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have one of them. So this happened to me actually, where you're like, oh, I gotta scroll back 1,000 times on this button to get to my birthday because it was 100 years ago. So they created a method where you click on the date picker, you go to the top of 2024, you go back to the year, and then you can go back to the month. It's a lot easier. So they have a process to deal with people that are not computer savvy or do not understand how computers work, which I identify as that. Verifying the account, after they match you, your dashboard button will say View Application. The View Application then says click to verify information. And this is all on the website, so you guys can just go to that. You'll be looking directly at the sheriff's website just like this. Verify the information on your application. Make sure you did fill out everything correctly. And some of the things they're kind of picky about, your actual full name. If you go by J-Dog, that's not the name they want you to put on there. They want, John, Robert, Dog, whatever your name is. And then if you're a junior, if you're the third, if you have any kind of suffixes, I have some interesting folks that have these names that are like 17 names, or they're really long, just the whole thing. And then if you have 2 middle names, all that stuff. If you have hyphenated names, whatever's on your driver's license is kind of a good way to go. Hopefully that's all spelled correctly. I have had two funny things that came up with applicants where one of them, the picture and all the information, all his address, everything was correct. His name was completely not his name, totally like somebody else's name, not even close. And then another one, he goes, hey, I got my permit, it's great, everything's correct, but it's not my picture. And I'm like, well, so that's, they're human. Things can get mixed up. So if you do have any problem, one of my permits years ago had no permit number on it. It said 0000. They just forgot to put the permit number on it. So I said, hey, there's no permit number. And they're like, oh, hey, we got to fix that. So they'll correct it, and they're really good. The Sheriff's Department, the nice thing about the Sheriff's Department right now is they're super helpful. If you ask them questions, they will answer them. And if they can't answer the question, they will find an answer and get back to you with it. And they're very, very customer service oriented and just really good people to work with. So we get a lot of feedback from students saying like, man, I'm a problem person, and they made this very easy for me. Where some people go through, they're like, oh, simple. I thought it was super easy. Other people are like, man, I could not figure out that computer. And that's me. I relate if you have a problem with computers. I've had some people go like, can I just go in person and fill it out with a pen? I don't know how to use a computer. Or I don't have a computer. They might be able to help you out. People have actually walked them through the steps. Complete all the red boxes. Missing documents, unfortunately, documents that did not transfer from the old program to the new program have to be uploaded again. So if you had Peridium, if you started in Peridium and you upload documents into Peridium, you're going to have to upload them again into CCW Pro. Again, for people just starting out, just upload to CCW Pro, not a problem. And then this is really important because this has happened to me numerous times with different licenses and everything, is if you don't go down to the bottom and scroll down, there's a couple boxes you have to click that say like confirm or I agree or yes or no, and then click save at the bottom. It doesn't save anything. And then you have to start over again with your application. That's filling out all your personal information, your name, address, phone number, all that stuff, answering a bunch of questions with little click boxes of yes or no. You don't actually pay until closer to your appointment time or when your appointment's coming up or either at your appointment. But for brand new applicants, when you create the account, you won't pay for anything. The fee for live scan, that's rolling your fingerprints at the sheriff's office when you go in for your appointment. You'll pay that either right before the appointment or at the appointment. If you're approved, you pay the final amount, and most people are approved. I mean, you should know if you go like, well, that time in prison, you should know you're maybe not going to get approved. I have had people go like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that homicide conviction. But it was in another state. It doesn't matter. If you don't pass the background check, you don't pass the background check. And then I'll mention something on background checks too, but once you're approved, then they collect the final amount of the payment, and then everything goes through, you're good to go. And they basically, once you've uploaded your documents from training, then they basically mail out your permit right away after that. But backgrounds, most of the problems we've had with background checks are not like I'm a 5-time felon or, have a extensive criminal history. It's I forgot to put down that I got a speeding ticket, and if you forgot to put it down, there's 2 ways to look at that. I could look at that as a background investigator. They could look at it and go like, oh, you're human, you just forgot. Or they could go, you're trying to hide it. And generally, it's like more like you're trying to hide it. So if you don't remember your speeding ticket, you could just put, I had a speeding ticket in 2014, I don't remember the exact date. Or I had a speeding ticket whenever it was. There's other times where people had other things that occurred, alcohol-related offenses that are 10 years or older. As long as you disclose it, let them know, hey, I had an alcohol-related offense. If it was 10 years ago or more, generally, depending on the circumstances, some things they'll look at if it was 5 years ago or more. If it was last week, they're gonna say, maybe a problem. It hasn't gone to court yet, yeah, it's gonna be a problem.
How far back do they go back?
So I have a couple of clients that had to do their thing from, one guy had marijuana possession. It was marijuana residue in a water pipe 43 years ago, probably 45 years ago now or longer. And he had to disclose it and he had to show all the documentation. Fortunately, because of his job, he already had all the documentation because he has a really good job. So they required the same kind of background check. So he had all that documentation. Again, you may not have all the documents and they may not be available, but if you disclose it and say, hey, this happened, and that was like, now it's kind of funny because some of these things they look at, it's not a felony anymore. It was a felony back then, now it's not a felony. I had another guy who's a chaplain for a police department, and like probably 35 years ago, he had a marijuana charge that would no longer be a felony. He had it expunged, but he still had to disclose that. So certain things that may have happened when and also the difference too is like, how old were you at the time of the offense? If you're like 18 to 25, certain presidential candidates expect you to be stupid. I don't know if I said that right. But we don't. But they're going to cut you more slack if something happened 10, 15 years ago when you were a kid than if you're like 35, 45, 55 years old and you made a mistake then. They might go like, hey, you're an adult. Why did you do this? But it really does depend on the severity of the offense, what was involved in the penalty phase of it, if you're convicted of it, and how long ago it occurred. So they're going to look at all of that, and it's kind of case-by-case basis. So they have that flexibility on that. The biggest thing I'll say is don't forget to put things down, because if you forget to list something, that is like lying by omission. You forgot to put it down, whether you think it's going to matter or not. That has happened and I think one of the questions is about being involved in a civil lawsuit. Are you party to a civil lawsuit? And you may be. They want to know. Are you party to any kind of, or do you have any pending charges like something's happening? And then part of the background phase is if you have, say you have your neighbors suing you for something, if they look at that case, it may give them more information about your behavior, depending on what it is.
What if you had to get a restraining order against someone in the past?
Yeah, I might list that anyway. Just say like just make sure they understand you filed the restraining order against somebody else, not it was filed against you, because it may ask about interaction with law enforcement.
How do red flag laws factor into all of
So if a red flag restraining order is in effect, then you don't have your firearms. You're not allowed to have your firearms because they've taken them away already, or you've gone through Walk Talk America, or you've gone through one of the local gun shops and you stored your guns with them, which is a better choice than giving them to the sheriff's department, because then you may not get them back ever. They may be destroyed, depending on who's hanging on to them or who keeps them or what happens to them. The red flag thing, generally you have 21 days after that is filed to contest it. And that's where we recommend, if you have like USCCA, you have one of the insurances, they're gonna get you attorneys to fight that. They're gonna do everything they can to fight the red flag restraining order so that it doesn't become a permanent restraining order. And then once it's dismissed, then it's no longer in effect. The problem is if it's done by a police department, that can be problematic. We've had a couple cases in town. I know Adam from USCCA can tell you more about the specifics of the case, but one of them was Mar Elliott, the city attorney here, goes around to all the police departments and tells them, like, you should definitely do gun restraining or gun violence restraining orders. And this is not a red flag, this is a gun violence restraining order. So anytime a gun is used by anybody in a situation, whether it's self-defense or not, but they think that it's not self-defense, they think that it's a crime potentially has been committed, or they charge the person, the police are doing a gun violence restraining order. And that is harder to get released because they really hadn't planned for that. They're like, once it's in, and it's maybe 4 or 5 years before you can have guns again. So again, you need an attorney for that. That's why I highly recommend United States Concealed Carry Association is partnering with them on having one of their memberships, either at the lower level or at the higher level, whatever you can afford, just so you have immediate access to attorneys that can really help you in a case like that. And that doesn't have to be, I mean, gun violence restraining order has to be guns, but that could be any kind of legal issue, any kind of self-defense issue they can help you out with. So that's why I really recommend that. But going back to applying, yeah.
In the background, so is that at the interview, you disclose it? Or?
Yeah, on your application, if it's on there, the questions are on there, you answer them, and then it's not really an interview, it's more like an appointment. You're just showing up and going like, this is me, here's my application, here's my documents. If you've already uploaded them, great. I always recommend bringing in hard copies. We've had people upload the wrong side of the document or the same document twice. So just bring all your documents with you when you go there and bring the most recent ones so they can just make copies if they need to. I always say, bring a folder with with your application printed out, all your stuff in there, just in case something didn't save right or there's any glitch, you've got everything right there with you. So you're prepared for that appointment. And then, that's where you could ask questions like, hey, what about this one thing? Something happened, and this is typically how it goes. Well, the police came out, they talked to me, they talked to my neighbor, but nobody got a ticket, nothing happened. It was like no big deal. But there's an incident number or there's a case number, or maybe something did get filed and you just don't remember it. I don't remember what I had for breakfast last week. So it's possible, unlikely, but possible. The other thing that's happened that surprises people is if your name is like John A. Smith, and your son's name is John A. Smith Jr., or just somebody has hijacked your ID, and usually it is a family member though. And I had one guy who had a problem because I think it's his cousin has the exact same name as him and lived at the same address. So they're like, prove that's not you. And his cousin got arrested for stuff. So he had to basically find a way to prove that that wasn't him, which is really difficult to do and usually involves attorneys because you've got to pull up old cases, you got to have identifying things, and then it's even worse if like your family member has used your identity for identity theft, and they've used your name, your address, and your social security number. Now it looks like that's you. So that can be problematic too. So those are things I would disclose or let them know about, hey, I had this ID theft thing or whatever it was, if you even know about it. And they'll let you know if anything comes up. They'll let you know. I remember I was at a renewal appointment one time, and the clerk goes, "Have you had any speeding tickets?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I had one, and I can't remember when it was. It was like, I don't know, November or something of something, 2014." And they're like, "November 7th." And I'm like, "Oh, you already know. It was a trick question." So yeah, they've already looked up some of that. The stuff that just shows up automatically, they've already looked it up. But then at that appointment, that's when they start your background check, your actual full background check, and that typically takes about 90 days. So that's the normal processing time for that. This is going to be a little bit misleading because when should I take my safety course? The Sheriff's Department experienced a very expensive federal lawsuit back in 2009 by a student of mine that was denied his permit because he was not a California resident, but he was claiming that he was a California, he's not technically under their definition back then, a California resident at the time, but he drove around in a motorhome and said he spent half of his time in California and half of his time in Connecticut. So they reviewed his application and they said no. And he was not happy about it. He had already done the training because he was a former police officer. He was convinced he would automatically be approved because he was convinced. I said, probably wait till you get your approval, then take the class. He said, nope, I'm going to do it now. So he did the class and then he got denied. And then he was mad at me and I said, I can't help you. I told you so. So he sued the Sheriff's Department. And that cost them a whole lot of money to defend that case. They initially I think they lost, then they won, then they appealed, and it's back and forth in the course, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars wasted, unfortunately, to eventually he lost. The Sheriff's Department won, but is it really a win if you had to spend all that money defending a case like that? So the Sheriff's Department said, hey, we're not going to tell anyone to take the safety class until after you've passed your background check because we don't want to get sued again. And we don't want to tell someone to take a safety class until they've been approved for that reason and for other reasons, multitude of reasons. I think everybody should take a safety class anyway. I think you should just take the class because you should take the class. I'm not biased at all because I teach the class. But I think it's beneficial to everybody. I actually have occasionally I'll have husband and wife, and the husband's getting his permit and the wife's not, but she takes the class with him. That's great information, really good information for the spouse. Sometimes it's the other way around. The wife is getting a permit, the husband's like, I don't like guns. And I'm like, okay. Wrong county. So they'll both take the class, and then frequently they both get the permit, but one of them might be like, well, I'm not comfortable carrying a gun yet. And that's okay to not be comfortable carrying a gun yet. It's a process to get comfortable with the whole idea of carrying a deadly weapon that could potentially kill somebody. And especially if you go, what if I make a mistake? What if I do something wrong? So that's all an educational process. You guys drive cars on the roads out here, which have potholes all over them and crazy drivers. Unless that's you, I don't want to identify anybody that's out there driving crazy. But that is far more dangerous than carrying a gun. Driving a car on a street in San Diego, especially like Escondido. But no, sorry, I mean El Cajon. But anywhere in San Diego is treacherous. So you can actually attend the class pretty much any time. The Sheriff's Department won't tell you to take it till after your approval. So they're changing things up a little bit, and this is kind of all in flux right now because I have some people tell me, I just had my appointment. They told me to wait 30 days and then go take the class. Anybody that just had their appointment? Nope. What did they tell you?
Just July 8th, we just went through all the questions.
They tell you when to take your class?
Yeah, you get a little piece of paper that says that your background check will take 90 days, no less, and then you take the class afterwards.
Okay, so I don't know what I did.
That was off
Oh, there we go. So some people, obviously, they didn't think you're going to pass a background check. So they said, just kidding. They said, wait till you get your approval. So some of the clerks are saying, wait till you get your approval. Some of them are saying, go take your class, because the class is good for 90 days, regardless, 90 days before, 90 days after. So if you're in that 90-day window and you know your background check is going to take 90 days, if you wait like 30 days and then take your class, you're good. The other thing is now, for everybody that applied after, did anybody apply before January 1st, 2024? Good job. Okay, good. You only need the 8-hour class right now. 1 day, 8-hour class, all on the range. We do the classroom under canopies. Fortunately, it's only been about 105 degrees. So it's, you know, it's not like Palm Springs or anything, but it's warm. So bring a fan or someone that likes you and can fan you with a fan. And then 1 day, half classroom, half range. For people that apply after January 1st, 2024, you have a 2-day class. The good news is the way we separated that out is sometimes it's back-to-back. It's like a Friday, Saturday. Sometimes, and you don't have to do 2 days in a row. You could do one Saturday or one Friday, one Saturday, one Saturday, one Friday. You can mix it up on, you just have to take the first day and then the second day. First day, there's no shooting. It's all classroom. It's a really big deep dive into all things concealed carry. We're going to be doing that at 2 different locations. Right now, we're currently doing it at 1 location, indoor classroom in El Cajon, that has temperature controlled, but it's a smaller classroom. We have a bigger classroom starting next year that we're going to be using in La Mesa that will provide for more people, so we can fit more people into that. But that'll be the first day class. Again, you can take that anytime. Ton of information. It's like we will feed you from a fire hose of information so that you can then take that information and do what you will with it over whatever time period before you do the second half of the class. The Sheriff's Department is really only concerned with when you complete the class. The class has to be completed within 90 days of your approval. So we've even had people, I've had people that took the class a year ago, and then they come back and they just do a renewal, or they do a qual shoot on the indoor range. They qualify with the gun. We issue them a new certificate. They're good to go. So the Sheriff's Department doesn't really care when you get the information. It's probably better to get it sooner than later. They care about when you complete the course, and that has to be within 90 days. And we're actually working on that with them because it's a command staff decision. But Orange County, you can take the class 6 months ahead of time. They don't care, as long as you took the class. It's almost like if I said, when did you get your high school diploma, sir?
87.
Yeah, that's too old. It's got to be within 90 days. You need to go back to high school. Does that make any sense?
No.
Anybody have a college degree? How long ago did you get that? A while ago. Yeah. It's got to be within 90 days or it doesn't count. It doesn't make any sense. So any other license, whatever you get, you take the class whenever, get your certification. Yeah, I get it.
If you maintain a CCW from other states, do they make you take the class in California?
Yeah, the California class is very California-centric. So like other permits, like if you take my California class, it does qualify for an Arizona permit if you want an Arizona permit. Arizona's like, yeah, we're cool.
Carry over?
What's that?
Does it carry over if you've got a CCW in California and go to Arizona?
California permit is good in Arizona, but all permits are good in Arizona. But an Arizona permit is good in Nevada. So an Arizona permit is good in like 33 different states all over. So people will frequently, we call it the ultimate concealed carry package because that's marketing, but it's just an extra $50, and then we roll your fingerprints, provide the application, you mail it into Arizona. They mail you a permit back usually about 90 days. There's no waiting periods or anything. It's just the background check, and then they send you the permit. But that's good for 5 years. Arizona permit is good for 5 years, and in 33 different states. So it's good all over the Midwest, everywhere except Colorado, because they only like weed. But difference of opinion there. They have a different restriction there, but you can in Colorado you can carry a gun in your glove box loaded, just not on your person. So they have interesting laws in different states. But I'm going to recommend you check with every state because laws change too. You get different elected officials in. That's why everybody should join San Diego County Gun Owners. But you get different elected officials in. They like to change things. They like to add new laws, do different things. How are we doing on time? I haven't even looked. Give me a thumbs up or something. Okay. Yeah, so laws change. Join San Diego County Gun Owners so we can keep things get things better in San Diego. But other states' laws can change. So try to keep on top of that too if you have out-of-state permits.
So my mother had started her process, I want to say last year, so before the cutoff for the 8 and 16 hour. But she had an issue. I think she uploaded her documents as one document. They're supposed to be separate, like PDFs or whatever. So she needed to go back and do whatever. But is there like a grace period for that sort of thing where like it could have lapsed?
Yeah, no, she's got a login there.
Yeah, back when it was Peridium.
But so now it's all those documents are gone anyway because Peridium's gone.
But would she still be able to do the 8 hour?
Yeah, because she started the application before January 1st. So yeah, she just has to go to CCW Pro. What's that?
Yeah, I think it's been probably close to a year at least since she started. She's been putting it off.
Yeah, I would say have her go and log into CCW Pro, and then if they can link the account, yeah, it should be in there. It doesn't go away. It doesn't like fall off. So it should be in there. Did I cover enough about the when you can take the class?
Safety course with the shooting?
Yep.
You then, because I've had a CCW years ago, you still have to go to the sheriff's
No,
range and shoot?
nope. They don't want you
They
there.
did away with that one?
Yeah. Well, the Marine Corps said no more CCW people.
Yeah.
They met you guys and said no, you can't. You're not allowed anymore.
70s,
Yeah.
what it was like back then.
Yeah, it was
You
different.
wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't
No,
believe
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. I got my permit in the 90s. But yeah, it
it.
was,
Mine in the late 70s.
yeah.
We shoot their nose.
So it was a muzzleloader? Yeah.
No, it's you went down in the basement.
Yeah, it was the basement.
And the guy, this
Yeah.
old guy. they were
Mac,
100 years
that's Mac.
old. You had the 3 guns, and they would pick like the worst one.
Yep.
Shoot 5 times, and that's it. Go,
Yeah.
go get out of here.
You go like, you hit it, most of them hit the target somewhere.
As
Yeah.
long as you did something.
There was a very low
That was
standard.
it.
Yes, it
At the
wasn't.
time, this is really funny. You walk in with the 3 guns, the ammunition, you had to go through the courthouse.
Yeah, where it says no guns allowed.
With a bag with guns, and I'm looking at the courthouses over there with weird people.
Yeah. Yes, and I remember when I first went in to do that, there was the deputy that was there was the son of a guy I used to work with. So he's like, Bill, he's like, oh, you're here. They saw the gun on the metal detector, and he's like, oh, you here for the sheriff's thing? And I'm like, well, I hope so, because there's no other reason I'd be bringing a gun in the courthouse. Question?
You mentioned you have to take 2 days for the new CCW. Does it have to be like 24 hours in total, or is it going to be like 10 hours in a day?
Oh, wow, man, your days are way longer than mine. It's 16 hours. It's 2 8-hour days.
In total.
Yeah, so 16 hours total, 1 8-hour day, 1 8-hour day. Oh, go ahead.
Question on the firearm. Now I understand in California, the CCW is specific to the firearm that you registered.
Yes.
So, okay, so you've already got your firearm, you put in your serial number for the CCW, say you want to get another firearm, like, okay, I guess I'm automatic.
I will say you want to get another firearm,
You
yeah.
have to sit there and go back through the whole process?
No. So you could list anything. And a lot of people will list like they go, oh, the only gun I have is my 50 caliber Desert Eagle, which is, if you guys know what that is, it's hard to conceal. So you could list the gun you have now if you want. And then you could go like, hey, this gun's really way too big. You buy a couple of holsters, you're like, this is ridiculous. Especially if you like to wear spandex or anything. I'm not saying that you do, but no, it's like whatever, the way you normally dress, you're like, I just can't conceal this gun. I need a smaller gun. There's a lot of smaller guns out there like the Smith & Wesson Shield, the SIG 365, the Hellcats that are out. There's a bunch of small, compact, concealable guns, revolvers, all kinds of things. So you might decide, hey, I'd like to get a different gun between when you applied and whenever. The only thing that's going to go on your permit is whatever you bring to the class and qualify with. And it can be completely different than what you put on your application. So they'll just, when you send it in, they won't list the gun that you initially put on there. They'll only list the guns that you qualified with on the range in the class. So that allows you the flexibility to change guns.
How many can you put on at one time?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. No, you can, so technically there's no limit, but I do have limits. In our group class, I typically ask people not to do more than 3, but we do provide modifications where you can add guns to your permit if you want to do more than 3. You can either add those guns before, you can qualify with them on the range beforehand, or after the fact. We do that over at the gun range on Balboa Avenue here, San Diego, or Gun Range San Diego. And I do that like twice a month on Monday nights. But you can add additional guns if you want to. I don't recommend having like 10 or 15 or 20 guns or anything on your permit. You might, 3 is actually a pretty good number. You can list 5 on the actual physical permit. If you list more than 5, then you have to pay for another permit, and then you have to carry 2 permits if you're carrying those guns. And I do have people that have 2 permits like that.
You have to qualify for each additional one?
Each gun you have to qualify with. So you just have to show, even if it's like I have guys have the same gun, they've got like a Glock 19 and a Glock 19, because everybody has a Glock 19. And they go, 2 guns. I'm like, can you shoot them at the same time? Usually not, but one maybe, not the other. But they have to qualify with each gun. So each gun, and we have to verify that the guns are safe and actually functional, everything. And I'm not going to recommend adding a bunch of things to your gun. Night sights are okay, optics are okay, red dot optics, lasers are all right. You can't qualify with a laser, but you can, you have to turn off the laser when you qualify, so you're using your iron sights. But you can use a red dot. But I don't recommend adding a mud flap or whip antenna or any kind of fancy schmancy stuff to your guns, because what it does is it makes them less reliable. And that's, for concealed carry gun, you want it to be reliable. If you want to have a range toy or a range gun that you use that has all kinds of extra things on it, by all means, spend your money. It creates commerce and it feeds the industry. But for concealed carry guns, stock gun, just learn how to shoot it better is the best recommendation there. Yes, question here.
So at the beginning, you stated that whether you have a gun or not, you want to go ahead and start the process to actually.
Yeah, so fill out your application, yeah.
So when you get to that part where it's like, go ahead and add whatever guns you want to add onto your permit, what would a person do?
Just leave it blank.
Just leave it blank?
Yeah, just leave it. And I mean, if there's, if it'll allow you to type something in, you can put in process or something, or pending, or whatever you want to put in there. But they don't, my understanding, I have not personally done this, but Michael Schwartz told me that you don't have to have a gun to start your application. I think it's important to have a gun, but.
Still don't mind, it told me to put my guns in there.
Yeah, so, but did you try to submit it without putting your guns in there? No, because you have guns. So it's, if you don't, I mean, the other option is go buy a gun. I'm not shaming you. But so you might have guns in another state, or you have guns somewhere else, but you don't have any guns in California. But if you, or if you haven't decided if you want to buy a gun, that's a personal decision. I don't tell everybody to buy a gun. You probably know people you would tell, do not ever buy a gun. So I'm not going to tell them to buy a gun. You know them better than I do. But it's a huge responsibility. So you should check all the boxes, discuss things with your spouse, figure out if it's the right thing for you. And then for some people, it's like, I want a big can of pepper spray. I'm going to put pepper spray all over my house, which I do anyway, just in case, wife gets out of control. Got to have some way. Sorry. Oh, she's sitting over there. Question.
For security license, like you don't own the gun that they want you to, but they want you to use a gun. That kind.
So for BSIS, for security permits, that's separate from concealed carry, a different license, different agency that issues the permits. So like a lot of companies, you'll use their gun when you go to their site. That's not your gun. You can't carry that gun concealed because you can't put it on your concealed carry permit because it doesn't belong to you. Hands are going
So
up.
say you have put in the application and that your date comes up, but you feel like you're not ready, can you extend that date later on?
I wouldn't recommend it because here's the thing. You control your own destiny. So you're not ready could mean a lot of different things. But if you're not ready to carry a gun, just don't carry it. But get the permit. Go through the training, get the permit, and then decide when you want to carry it. But you mean you're not ready, like you don't have...
Like, you have your appointment date and you want to extend it further, the date in the future.
So you might be able to do that. I just don't recommend it because it's going to be a long time. I mean, I do have people that are like out of the country for like 4 or 5 months at a time. So they're like, hey, I can't make my appointment. Or they're deployed or something. They can't make their appointment, so they'll reschedule it for later. Rescheduling for later is generally not a problem. It's just the sooner you do it, the sooner it gets processed. So like if you said I'm not ready, like I haven't bought a gun or haven't done any training, and again, a lot of this, like 95% of this is not physical. You can all physically shoot a gun. It's mental. Or am I mentally prepared for the responsibility, and am I mentally comfortable with the idea of carrying a gun for self-defense? It's kind of a big deal because you could end somebody's life intentionally or unintentionally. If you make a mistake, you could shoot the wrong person. If you don't do things properly, you could miss the bad guy and hit an innocent bystander. So there's a lot to it. It's not just like, I'm carrying a pen and a cell phone, and I have a notepad so I can write down things. This is like you're carrying a deadly weapon. Now, for some of you, I can see just by your tattoos that you are a deadly weapon. But because if anybody has a full sleeve, they do jujitsu. They do jujitsu, so that's it. I can tell. Sometimes I look at their ears, though. That's a better indicator. So think about how this affects you, and it's an individual basis. I give you blanket information on how to apply, but it is a very personal decision on if it's right for you and for your family. And then also you want to get your family on board. So your wife, your kids, your other family members, anybody that lives with you. If you have a mother-in-law, try to send her to another state. That's what I did. But make sure she's on board with the fact that you're gonna have guns in the house. And then if you have anybody in your house with a mental health or cognitive disorder, or even a little anxiety or depression, or experiences those things, decide if it's appropriate to have them have access to the gun. Because that's a huge issue with gun safety. And I really like the presentation right before mine with Walk the Talk America, a really good organization. I've been pushing them for several years now because we talk a lot about mental health and gun ownership and the responsibility of preparing for the potentialities of what if I do get in a crisis situation and I'm not sure how to handle it? What am I going to do to prevent myself from being a danger to myself or others? And then what if it's not me? What if it's my family member? What if it's my son, my daughter, somebody close to me? How am I going to help affect them in a positive way? What resources can I direct them to get the right mindset or to get out of that situation? Because we all probably know somebody that's committed suicide, and it's unfortunate that that's the case. And if you know a lot of people in the law enforcement military, like I do, you know a lot of people that have committed suicide, and it's unfortunate. Do you have a hook that pulls me off the stage? All right.
So the next one's at 1 o'clock.
All right. So that means 10 minutes and we're out of here. All right. So let me say this. Any other questions? What are your questions?
So I just got my Arizona permit in the mail. Is it still going to take 90 days if I get approved from the interview?
For San Diego?
Yeah.
Yes. Because it's separate background check. Yeah. I wish it was all tied together. It's not.
I assume you're gonna go through how to expedite your appointment date up if possible.
Just to move it up, you just go in and you just log back into your account, and then you say reschedule my appointment. And you try to reschedule it, see if there's anything available sooner. And frequently there is. People do that like 4 in the morning. I don't know, I'm usually sleeping then. But they do it early in the morning. I've had people get in 3 months. So yeah, so you can do that.
And
That's
when
possible.
you get to the point where you initially get your date.
Yeah, you already have your date set, then you can go in and reschedule. And it's not going to cancel your appointment. You still keep that date, and you just see if there's anything available sooner. But people do that every day.
I can speak on that, actually. I was able to move my appointment up by 4 months just by checking, keeping it up, hitting the reload button, and then they have a next appointment. And sometimes it'll hop up like a week at a time. So you just
Nice. Yeah, and I've had people do it like multiple times, so they really, that's how they didn't get it super quick right away. They did it more than once and then got it sooner.
My question was, does the permit work on reservations?
So there's some new information coming out just from Michael Schwartz and John Dillon. They're going to be talking on that. Technically, California state law is enforced on most Indian reservations because they're PL 280 state. We're a PL 280 state, so that's a federal law that allows the Indian res to contract law enforcement services. So most reservations that don't have their own police department, yes. However, casinos are not, and consuming alcohol, being in bars, all that stuff still applies. But they're going to they have some new information that they're going to be providing. And I always say check with the reservation you're going to, because a buddy of mine's the sergeant with with La Jolla Indian Reservation, and they have some stricter requirements. So he said he doesn't care if you bring your gun, concealed carry, but don't be in the casino with it, and don't commit any crime because they can throw the book at you if you're in a third world country if you commit a crime.